Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. I'm continuing my series on Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Today I'm in Luke chapter 20, and Jesus is at the temple. He's teaching, and the leaders of the temple, the elders, the Pharisees, and Sadducees, come up and ask him, challenge his authority. And he answers their question with a question. What was the authority of John the Baptist? And if they would have answered that his divinity, or his authority, should I say, was divine, they would have justified John the Baptist's words towards Jesus, because John the Baptist baptized Jesus. So he's asking, what authority did John the Baptist have? Because if they answer truthfully, which they don't want to do, they don't want to admit, then they also legitimize Jesus Christ as the Son of God. So, but if they answer that he had no divine authority, it was all from him, then the people would stone them, because they accepted John the Baptist as a prophet. So right after that, Jesus ignores them and turns to the people. And so we start in verse 9. Now Jesus turned to the people again and told them this story. A man planted a vineyard. Now, all through the Bible, the vineyard is synonymous with Israel. Leased it to tenant farmers and moved to another country to live for several years. At the time of the grape harvest, he sent one of his servants to collect his share of the crop. But the farmers attacked the servant, beat him up, and sent him back empty-handed. So the owner sent another servant, but they also insulted him, beat him up, and sent him away empty-handed. A third man was sent, and they wounded him and chased him away. What will I do? So here we're in a vineyard that represents Israel, and the vineyard owner that's represented by God, and the servants were the Old Testament prophets that were sent over and over to give God's message, who were rejected. What shall I do? The owner asked himself. I know, I'll send my cherished son. Surely they will respect him. So here, God has sent these prophets. Now he's sending his son. But when the tenant farmers saw the son, they said to each other, here comes the heir to this estate. Let's kill him and get the estate for ourselves. So they dragged him out of the vineyard and murdered him. So what do you suppose the owner of the vineyard will do to them? Jesus asked. I tell you, he will come and kill those farmers and lease the vineyard to others. So everybody in the room knows, including the Pharisees and Sadducees and temple leaders that just questioned Jesus about his authority, that Jesus Christ is talking about them, and he is the beloved Son. How terrible that such a thing should even happen, his listeners protested. Jesus looked at them and said, then what does the scripture mean? Now this is from Psalm chapter 118, verse 22, and Jesus is quoting that here. The stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. So he has been rejected, and now he is the cornerstone. Everyone who stumbles over that stone will be broken into pieces, and it will crush anyone it falls on. The teachers of religious law and the leading priests wanted to arrest Jesus immediately because they realized he was telling the story against them. They were the wicked farmers. but they were afraid of the people's reaction. So the people were accepting Jesus Christ as the Messiah, and that had been confirmed by John the Baptist. So by invoking the memory of John the Baptist and that he baptized Jesus was a way to remind the people that Jesus was that he himself was the Messiah. So of course, if they would have turned, the crowd would have turned against them for saying John the Baptist wasn't divine, they would have turned on them for arresting Jesus in broad daylight in the temple while he was teaching. That's why they started to devise these plans on how they were going to arrest Jesus and how they were going to get rid of him, because they're the tenant farmers. They're the wicked farmers who want the land for themselves and are willing to beat up and kill the prophets and kick them out, the true prophets, and kill Jesus. And that's what they wanted to do, because they wanted to continue to have control and have the money and the power. They weren't really looking for the Messiah. You know, there are people out there waiting for something, and then they realize what they're waiting for could ruin them. For a long time, I was an atheist. And things, I mean, we weren't a completely dysfunctional family, but we had our issues. I was an atheist. My parents were, well, I won't say what denomination they were, and they always wanted me to go to church. The worst thing that could have happened is for me to go to their church, because I had big difference politically with the people in their church, and their church, well, they were doing something evil. And if I'd have gone there and got involved with that church and realized what was going on and had proof of what was going on, I would have had their preacher arrested. I'll talk about that church maybe a little later. There's a gentleman in Duval County that wrote a book about that church. It's called The Devil in the Baptist Church. So the worst thing that could happen to my parents is them to get what they supposedly wanted, which was me and my child in the pew next to them, because of what was happening. And so the Jewish leaders claim to be waiting for the Messiah. Here he is, and they consider him the worst thing that ever happened to them. So I will continue reading in Luke 20 next week, starting in verse 20. So it'll be Luke 20:20. How nice. And we're getting near Easter, and the plots against Jesus are intensifying. So it's going to get bad before it gets good again. So you all have a wonderful and blessed day.